Hi, it's Wanda. Hey, I want to talk about the manifestation process today. How does it really work? It just seems that no matter where you look on YouTube or anywhere else, people are saying, remove your blocks, create $1 million, all that stuff, all that hype. But how does it really work? I talk to a lot of you, and you go to some event, you get all fired up, you come home, and then you get off in the weeds. So, why is that? Well, first of all, let's look at what is happening in your life right now. Everything in our lives right now represents an outpicturing of what you learned as a child. It's your ego. Our ego usually refers to our sense of self or our perception of our identity. It encompasses our thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and values. And most of those are formed in response to survival. Those beliefs and attitudes are mediators between ourselves and the external world. So the point that I want to make is who we think we are is completely learned. Nobody had the ability as a child to say, no, those beliefs about sacrifice and struggle, no, I'm not going to take those on. Nah. We absorbed everything like little sponges. Whatever we saw, whatever we experienced as a little kid, we decided, usually by the time we're 7 years old, that, well, this is just how it is, and this is how life works. People argue about money. Relationships are hard. You can't trust anybody. Rich people are greedy. You got to take the bad with the good. All that stuff, whatever you learned. And then, so today, what we know is that most of what we learned is negative. We learned that life isn't safe, watch out, money is hard, success takes a lot of effort and struggle. You might have learned that there's some sort of merit in struggle. Perhaps you learned powerlessness. That's a very common one, that you're powerless against circumstances. Perhaps you learned that somebody's going to save you. It's a big one right now. You might have learned people pleasing. People pleasing is one way that we control others' perception of us. It's not about them, it's about us. So all of these ideas, this identity that we have, turns into a self-concept. And this is who I am. This is how life works. And this is how I deal with it. So those ideas that we have determine our thoughts, which determine how we feel. And how we feel determines what action we take or what action we don't take. Just imagine that you had a really hard day and your best friend hung up on you and it was really hard. Feel how your body contracts. And then and you don't feel like doing anything. You're tired. And then think of something good that happened. You just won money or someone paid you an amazing compliment. Notice your body now, how you feel. So this self-identity determines everything in our lives. So in the manifesting community, people know that. And here's where everyone seems to go off in the weeds. So many people say, well, I've done all the right things. If you've studied Neville Goddard, you understand that imagination creates reality. Joe Dispenza says the same thing, that what we're doing is laying down new neural pathways in our brain and our body. We're telling our body how to feel in advance of a situation happening. And then because our brains are goal creating machines, our brains or our minds say, well, with all this feeling and emotion that you're imagining, it must be true. So I'm going to go make it happen. But here's the thing. It takes longer than a minute for this to change. We each have neural pathways that have been developed since we were children. And some of these beliefs are ancestral. It really doesn't matter. It's still all conditioned. If you grew up being afraid of dogs, then if you make a decision that you're not afraid of a dog, you may think, well, I'm not afraid, but your body is still going to contract and respond in fear, especially with people who are feelers like us. If you're listening to this, nothing changes in our lives until our body changes. It's not about mindset. It is so much more than that. It's your body, your heart, and your mind in alignment that create change, or that create the ability for life to change. And this is actually what people don't seem to understand. I hear this a lot, but why isn't it happening? Where is it? So we have to realize that if something's not happening, there's something in us that's pushing it away. You're not in alignment. You may have unconscious thoughts. If you want to create more income, you may have grown up with, well, rich people are greedy, and if I'm rich, I'm greedy. You may have thoughts that people argue over money. If you saw your parents arguing over money, you may have decided money's bad and that you'd rather have love. These are just thoughts. But we have to look at if something's not shifting for us, we have to notice what we notice, which is what are the thoughts that are coming up in your to the surface. It may be, you may think you have to earn things, you have to earn love, that it's not just given. So you may have thoughts that are pushing, for instance, wealth away. And when we have thoughts that might be pushing wealth away, we're not noticing the opportunities that are always present. We might have learned that life isn't safe and people aren't trustworthy. We might have learned that, all the ideas around life isn't safe, life is hard. So an opportunity may be staring you in the face, but you don't even notice it. And the bigger thing is that you don't take the inspired action that your higher mind is pinging you with. You've a subconscious identity that's pushing everything away so that the outer world can't change. A lot of you know that reality, what most people call reality, is just a mirror. It is the reflection of what we're aware of. It's what most people call reality, or out there, is only a reflection of what we're aware of what we've been thinking, of what we've been saying to ourselves. It's the perfect feedback system that tells us, I'm in the way. What would somebody have to be thinking and believing in order for this to show up? So it's the perfect way for us to change what we're doing on the inside. So when we look out there and say, why isn't it changing? Most people will say, what am I doing wrong? And here's the point that I want to make. Because of these neural pathways and because of how our bodies work and our brains work, it takes repetition and persistence to lay down neural pathways. back to this idea that if you are afraid of dogs, it's going to take longer than a day for your body not to react. You're going to react to a dog. You're going to say, oh, I'm not afraid of dogs anymore. Your body will calm down, and you've just created the awareness that you have a choice in how to respond. The next time you're around a dog, that reaction will be less and less. And so when people say that nothing is changing, that's really what's going on. You've got to give your physiology enough time to respond differently. What else can we do? Understand that everything you're experiencing in your life right now is really the past, because there's a time lag. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes there's a lag in when we imagine something and when it shows up. Not always, but sometimes. So if you're experiencing a lag, realize that out there is the mirror. It's not reality. Stop looking for out there to change. Be the version of you already living your fulfilled dream. Talk like that version of you. Think like that version of you. Act like that version of you. The reality mirror must change because that is its function. Again, it's a feedback mechanism to show you if it's time to shift some of these unconscious beliefs. And realize that everything changes via the path of least resistance. Your higher mind that I've spoken about before is handling all the details. We have a logical mind or an outward facing ego and a higher mind. The higher mind orchestrates everything, the conversations, the synchronicities. And our job is to follow our intuition and to continue being the version of ourselves already living that vision. So what else to do? Practice imagining your future success without worrying about how. As soon as we get into how, we've kinked the hose of creation, because how is not our job. The logical mind knows what did happen. The logical mind knows what is happening. It has no idea how something will happen. That part of the process is your higher mind. Let it do its magic. It's your creative genius. It is you. It knows what you want, and it's orchestrating everything. And the last thing is that realize that abundance and love are your birthright. We don't have to earn anything. We are already abundant and we are already love. That's our nature. So if you find yourself thinking that you need to do something or that you're unworthy, just realize that's your conditioning. It's all your conditioning. And the last thing that I would say is stay out of fear, because, we can think, well, what if it doesn't happen? What if? That's our conditioning. That's the conditioning that says, I don't always get what I want. There is a perfect reason why things might not have rolled out in your life now, even though you've been imagining and doing the things that you know you need to do. There's a reason. And the reason always is resistance. We're in the middle because our desires, our heartfelt desires, plus non-resistance always equals desires fulfilled. So if they're not showing up in a way in the time frame that you believe, look at where you're being resistant. The how is it? When is it? Look at if you're resistant to take action. We always take action. Action is part of being physical. So if you are thinking, but I don't know what to do and I don't have clarity and I don't know how, and what if I fail? You've got to line up with the idea that what you want is already done, and line up with these intuitive hits that you always get about what to do. Realizing that when you know it's already done, any action that you're aligned with in excitement, knowing it's yielding results, knowing the action is coming from giving, being more loving, being more of your authentic self, that is part of the whole process. So, questions? Let me know. You just have to keep at it, friends. It's persistence. You've got to work with your body. You've got to work with this idea of who you are and decide to be somebody else. I can assure you that these old versions of you will come up. It's part of the process. It's just part of the process. Don't give up. Don't call it done while the chemicals are still working. That's what so many of you do. You are creating change in the world by following your dreams, showing others how it's done, showing others that we can be, do, or have anything. That's a good thing. I'll see you on the next